They're very, very, very wonderful people. And you're right, there's enough business to go around, and it's better to I go to these shows, Adam, largely for that reason, because it's the people within the ecosystem that I think it helps a lot to not only have camaraderie, but to learn from other people, to solidify friendships with other people that are in the industry. Guys like yourself, guys like Rick Rule, guys like Rich Schectman, and many of the others. Of course, I like to talk to the customers and the clients and whatnot, but in my estimation, success comes through relationships, and it's added a tremendous amount to my success in forging those relationships over 35 years. I think it in many ways defines my success. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. And yeah, Rich Schectman and I did play golf, and he and his company are amongst the class of the industry. So I have no problem understanding and recognizing that's what good business is.
All right.
Inflationary. This is why the smartest money in the world has been accumulating gold hand over fist, that being the central banks. And I would add into it somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 billion with the B dollars that we know of, and I would argue there's probably a lot more that isn't reported, has been delivered into the COMEX market since November. And you're talking the most well-informed, the most well-funded, and the most sophisticated traders on the planet. Now, who is doing this? Who's got those pockets? And so, yeah, I think that there is no question at the highest level, and the only ones who would vote against that would be the banks, because it takes away, obviously, much of their power and leverage, as they've already seen a mass exodus of deposits leave the banking system chasing yield into treasuries. I'm sure the last thing they want is to see legal tender in gold, which traction and rumors that I hear, and I won't substantiate them, but rumors that I hear is that there is actually a good chance, and someone that I would love to talk to, and certainly, Adam, you may want to try and get him on your show as well, as Representative Alex Mooney from West Virginia, who has passed these or tried to float these bills federally to remove capital gains taxes and to call gold, especially that gold that would be issued by the U.S. Treasury, the Eagles, money. And rightfully so. And for these bankers who claim it's unconstitutional, actually, they're wrong. The Constitution says it is treasonous to use any money that is not species, which is gold or silver. So it's, as usual, the bankers are self-serving and wrong. And guys like Alex Mooney, guys like you, Jason, and others who would much rather hold their money in something sound and stable. And let's not forget the overlier, we have that $37 trillion debt, but the unfunded liabilities, Jason's point, in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security exceed $175 trillion. By the government's own admission, we're pretty darn well near $200 trillion in debt. There's no way to pay that off. You bring in Doge, well, at least right now there's not, unless we were to bring all the manufacturing home and grow our way out of it, which would lead to the Great Depression long before we were able to grow. But just for a moment, if I would, and that would be that if we take a look at this massive indebtedness, obviously, and you bring in Doge, who points to $2 trillion in reckless spending that we could save, but yet Congress doesn't have the political will to do anything more than 80 billion, and that 80 billion that they agree upon is 38 hours of spending by the government, amounts to nothing. So to Judy's point, in a world where the Treasury bond is losing demand globally, and it is, massive month over month imports of gold at record levels, the largest import ever into the history of the COMEX on the May contract. Who's standing for delivery for almost 9 billion in gold? You put all this stuff together. Okay, Judy, so we peg a 50-year Treasury to gold. Why? Well, because what that does, if you do revalue it, now James Rickards says 24,000. He comes up with that number by taking the money supply and dividing it into the gold that hasn't been audited since 53, and he gets this 24,000, which would give the Treasury General Account 6 trillion free and clear. Treasury would issue gold certificates to the Fed, who would print the money out of thin air and give it to the Treasury. Those gold certificates give the Fed claim on the dollar value of the gold, not the gold that belongs to the people. So that printing of the money completely devalues the dollar, just like Nixon did in 72 and 3, and just like Roosevelt did in 33. So I think what Jason is talking about has greater legs than people would give it credibility for. I don't care what the banks have to say about this. We are so far down the road that we've really run out of options. Inflate, you're dead. Raise rates, you're dead. It's time to think outside the box and unconventionally. And I think that's what Judy's whole theory is all about. And I wouldn't put past really a reasonable chance of something like that happening. So I just want to throw that out there and play devil's advocate, because I see a clear path to this getting crazier than people would ever think in terms of where gold will really go and what the plans are by the administration to use gold, not to back the currency, but to back the treasury market to keep rates low and in measure. M1 is the currency in circulation. But President de Gaulle from France proved something, and that is that convertible currencies convert. That's like Gresham's law, where the bad money chases out the good money. And I don't think they want to make it convertible on a currency basis. I think they'll sacrifice the currency. And unfortunately, a lot of people will suffer with higher inflation. But I think the only way to keep the system alive and to have any hope of bringing back manufacturing and growing our way out of this problem, because remember, Triffin's dilemma says if you are the world reserve currency, you will always run trade imbalances.
Right.
But that's why Vice President
deficits, but yeah.
Yeah, why the vice president is saying being the world reserve currency isn't maybe so beneficial at this stage of the game. So the only way you grow your way out of it is to back the treasury. And if you start with 50 tariffs was a ruse, it made perfect sense. And that was the cover. If they knew that the U.S. government was trying to accumulate it for reasons just like this, then again, front running galore. Instead, you cite tariff reasons and you cite arbitrage reasons where it was you could make more money by taking delivery in the United States. I think that's all hogwash. I think that was a cover.
Don't let a good crisis go to waste. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I just think it was a cover in order to bring that home, because if they said we're going to reshort because we think we need to back the treasury, that would not be a wise move. But if everyone thinks it's to front run tariffs and that will just end up going right back down the road, well, that's different. And I think it was a mistake I said that since day one. This is far bigger than just tariffs, because the amount of to increase demand for U.S. treasuries and not be inflationary, right? So you're creating that, you're not creating dollars, and you're really not even creating demand for dollars, you're creating demand for U.S. treasuries. So all these people who think they are leaving the legacy system, actually in a weird sort of way, you want to think PSYOP, you want to think misdirection, they are actually supporting it. Maybe this is why you're seeing such bipartisan support for these bills, because they understand that the demand for the treasury, the natural organic demand, is dying. So let's create the cryptosphere and then peg it by U.S. treasury. And you wonder, it's like the further we go down this digital road where quantum computing becomes so extreme, is anything safe anymore that is digital? And you have to stop and wonder, if it can do that many computations in what the world's fastest supercomputers take 10 septillion years, how safe is anything like that? But gold in a vault, tier one asset held in a vault, you don't have to worry about being hacked, if you will. So I'm not saying that I don't think that there's a role for Bitcoin. There is, but as it backing the sovereignty of the government, not quite sure. Then we do not. And we should be together rather than decisive, and this mutual exclusivity is silly. I think that we see the world in many ways somewhat the same, but the Bitcoin community wants to profit. We want to preserve, but together. Send us an email. Make sure you put came from Adam. Any questions you've heard here or any of the interviews we've done, or any questions on your mind, from macroeconomics to physical metals or anything in between, we will make sure that we send a price list. If that's all they want, just say, I want the price list. And we will make sure your listeners are getting the best price in the country, personalized white glove service. And if you don't get a reply back fairly quickly, check your spam. If you want to be contacted, put your phone number down. But info at Miles Franklin, saw it on Adam Taggart, and we treat those leads, those client requests, as the most important thing in the world. And I'm sure that we'll be able to prove that.
Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and enabling post notifications for more content on crypto and digital assets. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps with the YouTube algorithm and keeps the content coming. Thanks for your support. Enjoy the video.